Uh, I was thinking this morning about like sort of the. It really okay. Actually, to be honest, it was. I was thinking like, even Destiny has a child. Uh, and I yeah, it was just thinking about how, hot ass Brittany Ventney, and then I'm like, man. And he goes, oh dang, even Destiny has a kid. Or two people, two halfies like us were laughing at this guy, but he's replaced himself at least. Uh, so I was kind of giggling about that, and then but I thought about something about the whole men going their own way, and and really that's got a name. It's got some weird name to it, where the issue really comes down to ever since the colonies, people don't really conceive of the colonies right. So settlers came. There were not just colonists but settlers, and so settlers came later. A lot of the colonists, they would come to and fro, so you got this 30 to 40% return rate back to Europe by a lot of people who were just kind of colonials. They, in some way, shape, or form, ended up on a colony and then would go back, or they just didn't like the rate at which you had to work the rate at which you had to work. Americans notoriously worked very, very long amounts of time. The problem that we have with remembering history is we don't like discussing women were a huge part of this intense amount of labor, to the point that it was like it was really insane. And how normal it was, the concept that you were always busy doing some kind of labor work of some sort, and being remunerated for it. I mean, into the colonial period, even in instances of different states, depending, like slaves would get paid off plantation for other work because it was so intensely difficult to feed people up until really post World War II. So we had ebbs and flows. Remember, the economy would go boom and bust all the time. This is the whole discussion of why we even have. I need to tighten my shoelaces. Why we even have a central bank. So something I started thinking about, because we don't really remember how difficult it was till we got to this point, until about the 70s. And then things got really easy. Like, I mean, we started really getting real big. Well, I don't think enough people are thinking about the way that people didn't always get married in America. There were periods that both men and women saw nothing to it. Songs about it. Humor about not being married. Was it Walking in a Winter Wonderland, actually? Will they say, are you married? We'll say, no, man. And remember, it was Parson Brown. It's the idea is it's some kind of preacher. We'll see Parson Brown. He'll say, are you married? We'll say, no, man. And the idea being, that it's this hip, funny thing, the way of saying it. That was not abnormal. That this idea of a whole generation saying not having the marriage rates of a prior generation, that's not bizarre. This has happened before. We just really hate economics in America, so we don't like looking back at our numbers of marriage rates, and that just ebbs and flows. Like how the Japanese will depopulate a bit, and they're okay because they know their numbers. The issue then with MGTOW is this being not that bizarre of a phenomenon, but it now being a phenomenon that has caught up a name because of the inverted pyramid, and the fear that everybody has that our system of economics is going to fall apart if we don't have men delivering a lot of money into savings and into the financial system hoping to save for retirement, hoping to save for investments into their wife's retirement, into their children's education, that kind of stuff. That's the big deal that about like the inverted pyramid and the MGTOW threat to the inverted pyramid worldwide. And it also threatens the concept of conscription and conscripting soldiers, that you won't have the requisite generation like we have now. We actually don't have people who can enter the armed forces and pass the physical because of weight to height ratio. So stuff like that is a big reason why the system is reporting like things about marriage, like fear, that they're obviously afraid people aren't getting married. It's obviously worrisome to them. But then the issue I thought about a long time back, divorce fractures, especially I think boys, in a way that we don't want to be self-effacing about. We don't really want to be honest about. We can't really be honest about, because we can't think of these women hurting their sons, and then we can't talk about how divorced moms will drag their ex-husband's name through the mud in front of their sons, almost like it's a contest to do it. And then I see this all the time. I've seen it for decades. In San Francisco, it's a very normal concept. Your father this, your father that. And I just think it's now, that's one of the things with the MGTOW thing that nobody wants to consider. There's a generation of young men that we have heard how our mothers really felt about our fathers and feel about men in general. And for us, then it's just really like, well, why even be involved? Like, why do this at all? And I just don't think anybody takes that seriously enough. That we were there, we heard you say it. Kids remember things, and it's just kind of funny to me, because I think about that a lot now. I'm like, you do know you do this, right? And so yeah, and so that was just some thoughts I had. All right, later.